Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. That's our advanced Bible study night, Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. Okay, we'll be dealing with the topic inside the class is the end times. We'll be corresponding with current events. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have a lot of videos available with a lot of information. These videos will connect dots for you, lead you into the truth of the Holy Scriptures. If you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for those that want to support the channel or feel a need to, you can check out our Cash App in the bottom of the screen. Okay, so this is a non-Messianic channel, and by that we mean what we did with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by the Lord of hosts. Okay. Shalom and welcome to our Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our advanced Bible study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, do the current events, a prayer, some psalms, the current events, the need to know information, and then we'll go into we'll open it up for some Q&A, and then we'll go into the topic for discussion, which is the end times and current events. Okay. So this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days to regather His people. Oh Lord, we come before Thee this day, bow down in great respect for our Redeemer. Oh Lord, we confess. You confess through your prophet Isaiah that you would return unto us and that you would pour out your Spirit upon us. O Lord, behold, Thou hast made the heavens and the earth by Thy great power, and I stretched out on. There is nothing too hard for Thee. And knowing all these things, O Lord, we eagerly await Thy coming, the day in which Thou wilt break the yoke of our oppressor and deliver us. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to read a psalm. Okay. I'll read Psalms 66. It says, the great works of God. Okay. Make a joyful noise unto God, all ye lands. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say unto God, how terrible art thou in works. Through the greatness of your power shall thy enemies submit themselves unto thee. All the earth shall worship thee and sing unto thee. They shall sing to thy name. Selah, come and see the works of God. He is terrible in his doings toward the children of men. He turned the sea into dry land. They went through the flood on foot. There did we rejoice in him. He ruleth by his power forever. His eyes behold the nations. Let not the rebellious exalt themselves. Selah. O bless our God, ye people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, which holdeth our soul in life, and suffereth not our feet to be moved. For thou, O God, hast proved us. Thou hast tried us as silver is tried. Thou broughtest us into the net. Thou layest affliction upon our loins. Thou hast caused men to ride over our heads. We went through the fire and through the water, but thou broughtest us out into a wealthy place. I will go into thy house with burnt offerings. I will pay thee my vows, which my lips have uttered, and my mouth hath spoken. When I was in trouble, I will offer unto thee burnt sacrifices of fattenings, with the incense of rams. I will offer bullocks with goats. Selah, come and hear, all ye that fear God, and I will declare what he hath done for my soul. I cried unto him with my mouth, and he hath extolled with my tongue. if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. But verily, God hath heard me and have attended to my voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, which have not turned away my prayer, nor his mercy from me. So that was Psalm 66. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay, like I was saying, verses 13, it says, I will go into the house with burnt offerings, and I will pay my vows. So that's the temple. So he's going in with a sacrifice, and then at the same time, just like it's not doing the son. That's like what he's telling us to do, he's doing himself. So they say right here in verse 13, I will go into thy house, to the Lord host house, with burnt offerings, I will pay my vows, which I make, which my lips have uttered, and my mouth has spoken when I was in trouble. So we see him saying the same thing. He tells you, let's look at it right quick. So he's not doing nothing. He's not telling us to do something that he ain't doing himself. So when you go to Isaiah, okay, let me get it. No, Ezekiel. Go ahead. You'll see what I'm talking about. Ezekiel 37, verse 12. He says, Ezekiel 37, verse 12. He says, therefore prophesy and say unto them, talking to Ezekiel, thus says the Lord God, behold, O my people, I will open up your graves, cause you to come up out of your graves, and I will bring you to the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am the Lord, when I have opened up your graves on my people and brought you up out of your graves. And shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I, the Lord, have spoken it yet and performed it, said the Lord. So they're saying the same thing over here in 66, verse 13. I will go into the Israelites. I will go into the house, in thy house with offerings. I will pay thee my vows, which my lips have uttered, and my mouth have spoken when I was in trouble. I will offer unto thee burnt sacrifices of fatnings with the incense of rams, and I will offer bullocks unto goats. So there's nothing that he's telling us that he's not doing himself. He's performing his own self. He got somebody to answer to, just like we do. Okay. So that being said, we go to some current events.
America just entered a state of panic during the course of the weekend. This is a serious and urgent situation. Many Western elites are starting to lose their minds because they know that things are about to hit the fan as a result of African countries rising up against foreign colonial powers. This past weekend, we witnessed extraordinary developments taking place all across Africa. Flags of the Russian Federation were hoisted into the air across the continent. We'll begin in Niger, the country where everything first began. And according to the news source France 24, the government of Niger has now reportedly negotiated a contract for security with the Russian Wagner Group. Niger is going to be protected by Wagner troops in Africa, and they need it since the coup in Niger has reached the stage where it is no longer possible to reverse its course. The people are rising up in opposition to the dominance of France and the United States. Niger is currently in the process of becoming freed from the dominance of Western powers, which has lasted for decades. And this past weekend, the military commanders of Niger announced that the country will no longer be considered a colony of Europe. They have also issued a demand that any French forces and any influence exerted by the United States leave immediately or face the consequences. This past weekend in Niger, tens of thousands of people took to the streets to celebrate their nation's independence while chanting against the presence of foreign military bases, against poverty, and against the West's practice of taking their uranium, phosphate, gold, and other minerals. Leave right away. Other African countries are beginning to show their support for Niger and are beginning to say the exact same thing. Get out of our land. Before we proceed, kindly return the favor and like and subscribe. Also, consider supporting the work we do by joining our Patreon. You can also buy me a coffee, links in the description and channel bio. Before we proceed, let me say that one of our objectives is to help the weak, sick, and underprivileged. Lewin is a verified sickler and has lost 2 siblings to this dreaded disease. Friends, by contributing to Lewin's GoFundMe campaign in the description below, we can help him have the emergency bone marrow transplant and bilateral hip replacements in India and the Netherlands that he needs to be well. Thanks.
Okay.
Senegal took to the streets over the weekend to protest the colonial domination that Western nations have maintained over their country. Right now, Western intelligence agencies like the CIA, MI6, and others are doing all in their power to ensure that the puppet governments they've installed remain in power in these countries. Now that the Ukrainian government has been overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who of course helped instigate the coup and the collapse of the government, is going around like a crazy person trying to figure out what she can do in Africa. According to Colonel Douglas McGregor, the citizens of that country, who have had their minerals stolen for years, are sick and tired of the situation. An example of this may be seen in the country of Niger, where a government that was officially sponsored by the United States and had a military that was trained in the United States abruptly reversed course and denounced Western influence in the nation. The big natural gas pipeline that is almost ready to go online is the one that nobody is talking about, but it is the one that should be. Now it begins in Nigeria, and on its way to Europe, it travels up through Niger. Already $13 billion worth of investment has been made into this by both Chevron and the United States. Following the damage of the Nord Stream pipeline, Chevron increased output in order to get this pipeline back up as quickly as possible. Now the people of Niger are opposed to the idea of a pipeline running directly through their nation and onward into Europe. The people of Africa have the impression that the colonial powers are not doing anything for them, despite the fact that you continue to steal their resources. Because of this, fear has gripped Europe during the past week. Because of the disruption to the natural gas supply caused by the Nord Stream pipeline, this winter was destined to be exceptionally frigid and overcast from the beginning. If this pipeline is not allowed to be put into operation in Africa, the current winter could become even more severe than it already is. Without the pipeline from Russia to Europe known as Nord Stream, Europe is on the verge of a disaster. The African pipeline was their savior, and when you factor in uranium and Europe's nuclear power, the situation became much more favorable for them. The United States imports more than half of its uranium from Russia. Uranium was not included on the list of restricted commodities that the United States has imposed as part of its sanctions against Russia. Why? Due to the fact that the United States is so heavily dependent on Russia for uranium, Vladimir Putin has the ability to simply flick a switch and destroy the economy of the United States of America by shutting out the lights. Just give that some thought for a second. They sanctioned Russia for everything else, but made sure to steer clear of the uranium issue. Therefore, Russia has the ability to shut off the power with the flip of a switch. Since then, France and the United States have, in essence, been stealing uranium from these African countries for the better part of 3 decades. Once more, these nations are sending the message that enough is enough. We, the people of Niger, Senegal, and Guinea, are independent nations, and as such, we intend to keep our own minerals and make our own choices. This choice is being made available to them by Russia. The significant African meeting happened the week before last in St. Petersburg. Vladimir Putin and Russia forgave these African nations the tens of billions of dollars in international debt that they owed, and they were motivated to reclaim their independence as a result. In essence, Russia wants African states to maintain their complete sovereignty, while simultaneously canceling their debt and assuring them that it will not steal from them. That must be an offer that some of these nations would be interested in taking advantage of, right? They are free from their obligations to serve as slaves to Westerners. According to Musa Ibrahim, the head of RT's Africa Bureau, what the people of Africa want is to reclaim their wealth, including their uranium, their gold, their iron, their phosphate, their oil, and their gas. And this terrifies the West because it indicates that genuine democracy will emerge in Africa when people genuinely own their own land and when the wealth of Africa is not allowed to pass untaxed and unchecked from the mines in Niger to the banks of Paris and the financial industry in Britain. This is a frightening prospect for the West because it means that genuine democracy will emerge in Africa. Indeed, he is correct. The recent military takeover in Niger is not an isolated incident, rather is part of a bigger storyline that involves Africans fighting back against neo-colonialism in the West and attempting to reclaim their national sovereignty. Yes, they may be considered autonomous. However, if we have a US military base and a French military base on our territory, how precisely are we sovereign if they are taking all of our minerals?
Okay, any comments on that? I hope everybody keeping up with this, what's going on in Nigeria. Okay, so like I said, as you can see, just over the weekend, things have already been ticked up 2-3 notches and spreading. Okay. Right here. Okay.
Trees that could collapse in 2023. A gripping drama is unfolding on the vast expanse of the global economic stage, with formidable challenges lurking around every corner. The stakes are higher than ever, and destiny hangs in the balance on this grand stage of nations. As the world waits, we learn about the fates of 12 countries whose existence is hanging by a thread, poised on the brink of collapse in the fateful year of 2023. Below, we unveil the 12 countries that could collapse in 2023, a test of survival in the tumultuous tides of 2023. Stick around to find out the country on the #1 spot. You will believe that this country is one of the powerhouse nations of the world. 12. Ukraine. Ukraine is caught in a complex web of problems as it deals with the fallout from Russia's invasion of its territory. Bombings and armed conflicts have destroyed its infrastructure, and the country is saddled with a massive debt of more than $20 billion. Amid this turmoil, Ukraine seeks relief by requesting a delay in debt payments, but the full extent of the war's economic impact remains unknown. The country's road to recovery is fraught with uncertainty, and its future hangs in the balance as it bravely faces the daunting task of rebuilding while navigating the turbulent waters of a volatile global landscape. 11. Tunisia. Tunisia is at a crossroads, grappling with pressing economic challenges. The country faces a nearly 10% budget deficit, exacerbated by one of the highest public sector wage bills. Tunisia has proposed a controversial reform plan to secure a lifeline, which has sparked opposition from labor unions. The country's political unrest, rising inflation, and dwindling purchasing power have fueled fears of a social breakdown. As the country walks a fine line between stability and uncertainty, its future depends on balancing economic recovery and addressing its people's concerns. 10. Argentina. Argentina faces a massive burden in international finance as the world's largest debtor to the prestigious International Monetary Fund. A massive gross debt of $378.518 billion looms over the nation's economic landscape, casting a shadow of uncertainty. Argentina is bracing for a formidable challenge as the year progresses, with heavy debt payments looming, potentially plunging the country into a maze of complex financial predicaments. The country's fate is at stake, and the path to stability lies in navigating the dangerous waters of debt repayment while protecting the well-being of its people. 9. Kenya. Amidst the majestic savannas, Kenya faces mounting challenges that cast shadows on its path to progress. The burden of public debt looms large, reaching a troubling 70.3% in 2022. Nature, too, is holding a firm grip on the land, causing food scarcity and exacerbating inflation. Climate disasters unleash their wrath, exacerbating the nation's woes. Far-flung conflicts reverberate across borders, disrupting food imports and sparking protests for more affordable necessities. Kenya's aspirations for a better future through infrastructure development have been lofty, but the benefits have yet to materialize, leaving its citizens yearning for tangible improvements in their daily lives. As the country attempts to navigate this complex landscape, the path to prosperity lies in facing challenges with resilience and devising long-term solutions that benefit the country and its people. 8. El Salvador. El Salvador, in the heart of Central America, is grappling with mounting economic challenges due to its audacious decision to embrace Bitcoin. Despite efforts to alleviate the crisis, the country's investment in cryptocurrency has backfired, resulting in a significant loss of value, estimated at $70 million. El Salvador's financial stability is jeopardized by adopting Bitcoin as legal tender and allocating public funds to the digital asset. International analysts warn that the ill-fated move could pave the way for debt payment defaults, casting a cloud of uncertainty over the country's future. El Salvador's determination to overcome adversity will be critical in charting a course to brighter prospects as it travels this dangerous path. 7. Egypt. In the heart of the Nile, Egypt is entangled in a web of economic distress and has sought refuge from the International Monetary Fund on multiple occasions. The echoes of the distant conflict between Ukraine and Russia reverberate off Egypt's shores, adding to the country's woes. Egypt's currency, like a sandcastle, loses value with each tide, while inflation soars like a scorching desert wind. Desperate times necessitate desperate measures, and the country takes bold steps, prohibiting imports of certain products to contain rising prices. However, the road to recovery remains difficult, and Egypt faces an uphill battle to regain its financial vigor and emerge victorious from the clutches of the crisis. 6. Pakistan. Despite its vibrant landscapes, Pakistan faces pressing economic challenges threatening its financial stability. With foreign exchange reserves dwindling to a worrying $9.8 billion, the country now has only 5 weeks of import coverage. The threat of a balance of payments crisis looms large, owing primarily to the high cost of energy imports. To weather the storm, Pakistan has turned to the International Monetary Fund for assistance in addressing its financial challenges. The road to recovery is paved with formidable obstacles, with the dual task of reducing debt and increasing revenue necessitating unwavering determination, astute diplomacy, and careful consideration. 3. Ghana. Once adorned with the promise of a prosperous future, Ghana now faces the grim reality of severe financial trials. The once sturdy currency is now trembling under the weight of depreciation, while inflation soars to a frightening 30%. Ghana's debt has increased by an astounding 7,000% since 2000, reaching a staggering $54 billion. Fiscal stability is a distant dream as the government struggles to bear the burden of this massive debt. Urgent loans become a lifeline in a desperate bid to stay afloat, and the country was forced to announce external debt suspension in December 2022, reflecting the limitations of its financial resources. Ghana's resilience will be tested in this time of adversity as it attempts to overcome obstacles and restore its economic vitality. 2. Ecuador. In the heart of South America, Ecuador is experiencing a tumultuous storm of violent protests and unrest, leaving a trail of scarcity, disruption, and uncertainty in its wake. Food and medicine shortages grip the country, while reduced oil production exacerbates the situation. The government has implemented measures such as lower gasoline prices, debt forgiveness, and fertilizer subsidies to appease the public. However, the underlying dissatisfaction remains. The country's economic woes are exacerbated by high debt levels and consecutive fiscal deficits, posing significant challenges to the country's financial stability. As Ecuador grapples with these complex issues, charting a course to stability necessitates deft and innovative solutions that address the immediate needs of its people and the long-term viability of its economy. 1. Nigeria. Nigeria is confronted with significant economic challenges due to debt and poor management. Despite being a major crude oil producer, its wealth has not increased living standards, resulting in significant inequality. Concerns have been raised about increased poverty due to an energy transition plan that includes eliminating fuel subsidies. Mismanagement aggravates poverty by raising the cost of goods and services. Crude oil theft and non-operational refineries lead to excessive borrowing and debt accumulation. Skilled worker migration has an even greater impact on the country. The outlook for 2023 is challenging, necessitating strategic measures to improve fiscal management, alleviate poverty, and promote sustainable development to ensure a brighter future. These countries face economic turmoil amid war, political unrest, and international pressures as time passes.
Okay. Any comments on that? That was 12 countries that's on the verge of collapsing. So you never would have thought that Nigeria was number one. But like I said, it's all part of a bigger plan. These powers that be, these Edomites got. Any comments? Okay, got some need to know information right here.
That's bro. Order in the court, guys. Okay. So it is your favorite attorney, Attorney Ali Booker. We are discussing politics as usual, right? We are the politic police here at the African diaspora. Okay. And so one of the things that we have been discussing, guys, is Trump. Okay. This is a huge, for the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party, our entire nation, it's a huge deal what's going on right now. We can sit around, we can act like it doesn't mean anything. It means a lot. It's creating history. It's setting the tone. And it's also quite interesting to see how he's going to maneuver and what's going to happen, okay? Now, Trump has been charged with more counts, okay? In addition to this, he has had, unfortunately, two low-level individuals or low-level workers that have been charged along with him, unfortunately. And of course, we know that Trump tends to get people, they say, that are lower level employees of his to do his dirty work, because these people, you have to think about it. Being able to rub elbows with someone of his caliber is something that a lot of people will never do in life. And so once they've made it, or they feel like they've made it and they've gotten there, it's at the point where they don't want to tell him no. He used to be a president. He very well could be a president tomorrow. You don't want to tell someone like that no. And he is very good at knowing who is going to be a quote-unquote good henchman. And so he picks them out. He handpicks them and approaches them. And they generally do what he says. So it's been told that they assisted in destroying documents and moving things for him. So we have two people underneath the new indictment, Nada and Day Oliveira. Apparently, they moved about 64 boxes of records to Trump's residence after the Justice Department subpoenaed Trump for those documents, okay? And they helped to move the 64 boxes away, and then later they returned about 30 boxes for inspection by Evan Corcoran. Okay, and he's a Trump attorney. He's one of Trump's attorneys, Corcoran. And he represents Trump, and that's one of the attorneys that Trump ended up lying to. Remember, they said that his right hand is one of the people that helped him move him. Well, they've indicted them over this weekend. Okay, and it's unfortunate because they don't know what to do. It's been said that they've reached out to kind of see what they should do. They are scared because they don't have that much money. This is a high-level investigation. It's going to take a lot of money for them to be represented, and he is telling them that if they stick by his side, that he will make sure they have an attorney. So they're kind of, at a point where they have to decide whether they're going to keep on going with him or whether they're going to turn their back on him and then become a witness for the government and assist them in their investigation against Trump. In my opinion, they're going to get in trouble either way. They probably need to turn their back and run. One thing that Cohen has let people know is that when you are at this point with Trump, you need to turn your back and you need to go and you need to think for yourself. He's also come out and he's stated in many interviews this weekend that he believes that Trump is lying, that Trump does not have attorneys for them, that he's looking for people to represent them, but that these people will not be paid, number one. And number two, that Trump will not pay them until later on down the line to make sure that the people stay where they should be in this fight, to make sure they stay on Trump's side. And the second in which they look like, or Trump argues that they look like they're turning their back on him or something along those lines, he's going to use that as an excuse to leave them dead, right there in the dump with no lawyer. And that's what Cohen is saying again this weekend. He's even saying it early this morning. So it's good to see these charges come, and it's also bad because one of the things that they said about these charges is that it's kind of getting ridiculous at this point. From a legal standpoint, you can really see them reaching on these charges, okay? And a lot of people are upset because they're like, come on. You've now indicted two low-level workers who clearly had no authority whatsoever and were just doing what they were told. One of them is his driver, for goodness sakes. What did you want them to do? These are not high-level officials with some long history of knowledge of the legal world. And they feel like those are just like sitting ducks that they're shooting at. And it's highly unfair. So that's one of the things that's been brought up this weekend. However, we know how it is when you're on the other side of things. You use what you have to get what you want. And inevitably, a lot of the time that you bring very powerful people down, you do it by bringing down those around them so that you can get to that powerful person, because they've got people standing in the way. The only way for you to bring them down is to remove that barrier of people. Seems like that's what they're doing. So we're going to be paying attention to this, guys. This is a huge deal. I'm getting ready to discuss how big of a deal this is in another video. It has the entire Republican Party perplexed. They don't know which way to move and how to look at things and what to say about it, right? You have people that are saying absolutely nothing about this, and really nobody is talking about this in the Republican Party except for a few people, maybe DeSantis and Chris Christie, and we'll discuss that later, and why the Republican Party isn't doing anything and why people decided that it's better to say nothing and kind of let this stuff go on with Trump than to speak out against it and use it as a political pathway to be elected. So this is, again, a landmark case to watch. It is going to set precedents in this country and many others as to how far your authority will go. We know that there are presidential candidates that are saying if they get in, they'll pardon Trump. But they're so low in the voting polls that I think they're just doing it to get votes and to garner support. Because a lot of these people are going to need to know where to land. Some people are not so much behind Trump, and they believe that the more charges they come with, the less amount of people that are going to support Trump. That may or may not happen, but let's keep our ear to the street. Let's keep watching it, guys. We're going to stay up to date on this political, this is a political catastrophe, it's a rendezvous. It's many things. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's the first precedence for this, and it's highly interesting. It really.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody see anything about pertaining to that? The indictments that came, I think it was this morning, maybe, over the weekend. Okay. No comments? Okay, so we'll open it up for some Q&A, questions and comments. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything that they came across or anything they heard on the channel they want to discuss? Okay, everybody good?
That this was coming. We saw it when SVB went through that situation. We saw it when Bank of America, Wells Fargo was going through their situation. And every single time we see a bank closing up, we knew that something major was coming. That something major has come. A lot of people are facing their SHTF moments. Where is my money? How can I access my money? What do I do? How many loops and hurdles am I going to have to jump to get my money that I work for, to pay my bills, to take care of my family, to have for emergencies, to have for retirement? That is what is happening right now. Let's talk about it.
I really wanted to get it right, trying to find some balance in my life. I never really put up a fight.
They say vaults are empty. They say people are doing bank runs. Before we get too far into this, please give this video a thumbs up, share it out, comment down below, and now we can get into it. So major bank abruptly closes all locations, leaving customers trying to locate their money. How's that movie go? Show me the money. That's what a lot of people are saying right now. Show me my money. So this is going to be a short story, but I definitely am looking forward to reading your comments below. A bank has failed, forcing federal regulators to grapple with the fourth Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, takeover this year. The fourth one, you guys. The small Kansas-based Heartland Tri-State Bank failed in late July following three much larger mid-sized banks that failed at the beginning of March. Those banks failed. So Heartland Tri-State Bank collapsed in late July. Heartland is the first bank to fail since First Republic in early May. The Kansas Bank Commissioner closed Heartland and appointed the FDIC as the receiver. The FDIC insured deposits up.
Optimum customers love their fast, reliable service.
During the bank failure. The FDIC then transferred the deposits to another local bank called Dream First Bank. And we're going to circle back around to those insured deposits. Dream First agreed to reopen all of Heartland Tri-State's branches and assume all the deposits. Depositors who had Heartland Tri-State accounts now have Dream First Bank accounts. All Heartland depositors can still access their money so far by writing checks, using an ATM, or using their debit cards. You should continue to make your payments, including escrow payments, as usual. The terms of your loans will not change. So they still want you to give them money, even though they close all those locations to your money. So back to the FDIC insuring deposits up to $250,000 during a bank failure. They're going to stop doing that because more and more banks will be failing. There is no way they're going to keep shelling this money out. So I don't say go run and take your money out of the bank, but if that's what you choose to do, do it. I do say don't have all your eggs in one basket, okay? Because if one bank go down, you need to at least have some money in another bank, or you need to have some money and money on your persons, like where you, not on you, but where you can get it if you need it, okay? You don't want to be out there in an emergency and you don't have any money.
Okay, so we see there another bank that went down. All these are signs. If you're not paying no attention to them or preparing yourself, you're going to be caught in the pickle. Okay, this should happen over the weekend too. I couldn't leave this out. Like I said, it's again, prophecy taking place, and it's speeding up on both sides of the Atlantic. Here we go.
Attack in America. But we are not victims and we are not powerless. Our fundamental rights are under assault and our very history is being denied. But we will not stand by quietly as it happens.
The goal is to condition this generation to white supremacy because they see this generation is pushing against this far right-wing fascist ideology. We want our freedoms. We want our people to be safe. And so seeing that as an existential threat to the Republican Party, they aim to change the way a generation thinks by changing what we teach them.
Members of the Congressional Black Caucus did not hold back at a press conference on the state of race in America earlier this week on Capitol Hill. The group highlighted a slew of right-wing attacks on blackness and civil rights, like the ideologically driven Supreme Court ruling that put an end to affirmative action, the challenges to voting rights and equitable redistricting seen recently in states such as Alabama and Louisiana, the onslaught of book bans and revisionist curriculum standards for teaching Black history, and the lack of action to address the Black maternal mortality crisis in a post-Roe v. Wade landscape. In the words of Congresswoman Terry Sewell of Alabama, old battles have indeed become new again. Joining me now is
Okay, so we see right here it's a resurgence. They're trying to take everything back to the slave days, and we know that ain't gonna happen. So we see uh, Israelites, because that's who we are, rising, and it's scaring the hell out of everybody else that's they watching it, they can't believe it. But and we see the reactions to it. Okay, and it's nothing that's gonna stop it. It's gonna keep on going and going. Yeah. Any comments on that? Okay. We go into the I got a couple of videos that I thought was pretty interesting. It's tied to the discussion. It's the end times and current events. And what I'm doing is showing you through current events how we got so many people coming up with all these scenarios about the end times and all that, but all you have to do is look at like the Most High said. I spoke it, and I'm bringing it to pass. I performed, and I'm bringing it to pass. All you gotta do is watch it unfold. If it's unfolding, then that's what he spoke. So that's what we're looking at. We see that he said that in Isaiah 60, chapter 60, that we was going to start rising. He was going to take the forces of the Gentiles and convert it over to us. So when you look at that, it means that slowly, little by little, he's going to start transferring power. And you're going to start seeing the courage that was there before start rising. And we're looking at all that. It's not unfolding like they want you to believe in the New Testament, because all these prophecies are in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, turn into these two videos, I want to show you something right quick. Okay, just behind me, you can see that. Can you see that? Can y'all see that? Can you make the images out? Yeah, that's Negro Land. I don't know who on here familiar with that. I got a bunch of videos, but this is Negro Land. Notice where it's at. It's in West Africa, where all the drama going on there right now. It's Negro Land right here. All where you see Guinea and Ghana. This is where the Israelites fled to. And I told you in 1940, 143 BC, when exotic peoples ran them out. They ran out. They came here. There was nobody existing in Africa. All the population was up around the Nile. This was pretty much open country, and that's where they went to, because they was told not to go to Egypt no more. We delivered them from Egypt. We said not to return there no more. So when they left, they came here. We got another map right here. Negro Land. It's a map of Africa right here. So this area right here, Negro Land, and that's the reason why they right here. That's the reason why, if you didn't know it, that's why they said Negroes to sell when they was having auctions. They were saying Negroes to sell because of where they had got them from, Negro Land. So they called them Negroes, And we was, for the longest, I know I wasn't back to that, but that's why they was calling them Negroes, because that's where they got them from. It was this whole big expanse over in Africa, and West Africa was called Negro Land, which is another word for Hebrews. So
Shalom. Was Africa named before its name changed was Negro?
No, it was Kubulon and all. It had a different name. Ethiopia was the name. It was one of the names, but they started calling that region, that particular region on the west coast of Africa, it was called Negro Land. And if you go to, like I said, I got videos on it, but let's look at it right quick. If you go to, get it, yeah, Zephaniah, the book of Zephaniah. It says, Get it? Give me a minute. Trying to hide from me. Okay. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9 says, this haven't happened yet. So it says, this is a prophecy of the end times. Zephaniah 3 and 9. Then will I turn the people of pure language, that they may all call upon my name, the name of the Lord, and serve him with one consent. Then he says, verse 10, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, may my beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my supplements, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring my offerings. In that day thou shalt not be ashamed for all the doings wherein thou hast transgressed against me, but then will I take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. So beyond the rivers of Ethiopia is Negro land, the Niger River and all that region. That's where it was at. So not only that, it has a prophecy, I think it's in Jeremiah 32, talks about the same place. It's not saying Negro land, but when you do your research, you realize it's Negro land. So just like Deuteronomy 28 and 68 says that ships is gonna come, but those ships came to the West Coast out to Negro land, brought us over here. So when you go to Jeremiah, and get it. I think it's somebody else may know the verse. I can say it so many times. I think it's Jeremiah 32. If I'm not mistaken, that he's gonna come get us. He's gonna take us. He's gonna return us back by the same way in which we came. He's gonna take us back to the same place. When it's time for us to be delivered, they're gonna take us right back to Negro land. Okay, it says, I'm thinking it's 16. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's right here, 32 and 68. 32, starting at verse 36. Jeremiah 32 and 36. And now, therefore, thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, concerning this city, wherewith ye say, it shall be delivered unto the hands of the king of Babylon by the sword and by famine and by pestilence. Behold, I will gather them out of all the countries whither I have driven them in my anger and in my fury and in my great wrath, and I will bring them again. Here you go. 32 and 37. Behold, I will gather them out of all the countries whither I have driven them in my anger and in my fury and in my great wrath, and I will bring them again unto this place. I will cause them to dwell safely. Right? So we know that in Ezekiel 38, Israel is going to be dwelling safely. And that's when the nation is going to come up and try to put them back in oppression. So it says, and I will cause them to dwell safely, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. So he's telling us right here, the very same place that they took us from on the boats. He's going to return us in the latter days back to where they got us, dropped us off at. Where they picked us up at, they're going to take us back there. Okay? So all those verses are pertaining to Negro land, which is Hebrew land, really, because that's where the Israelites is at. And the thing is that, like I said, when doing history, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, everybody in Africa in that region knew about those Israelites. There's too many people that too big of a multitude. They knew the story. Same way with the transatlantic slave trade. In the same way when they fled Africa. Everybody knew that the people that was over there on the west coast of Africa in that region was Israelites. The whole world knew that. And they said that we was a people that God had thrown them away. That was one of their main reasons for coming and doing a lot of things they did. They said that our God had threw us away. They had a right to come and get us. So anyway, the scriptures I just read, Jeremiah 32 and 36, says that he's going to return, he's going to come, he's going to return us. He's going to cause us to be returned back to the place in which we was taken. And then from there, we know Zephaniah tells us that from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, these people going to bring us this, in the very end, they're going to bring his supplications to him from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. That's Negro land. Okay. So with that being said, like I said, looking at when you understand that and the history of this region, then it's no coincidence that that's where we at right now with this Niger thing. You know, Niger, like I said, look at how you spell Niger, then Nigeria. It just Nigeria just have IA on the end of it. And then you got the Niger River. You know, all this stuff ain't a coincidence. So anyway, let's go to the first video pertaining to that.
A banknote from Senegal
says that France is secretly behind the scenes. They want you to think colonization and what they done in Africa when they colonized Africa is over with. But this video is showing you that there's 14 countries that France is controlling, secretly controlling.
Here is another from Congo. They look nothing like each other, yet they are part of the same scheme. A scheme that pegs both currencies to the euro, a rate determined by the French treasury. The issue at stake is the apex of French policymaking, the CFA franc. Using it, France controls the monetary sovereignty of 14 nations, making up nearly 200 million people. These countries include Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Senegal, Togo, and the Central African Republic. And while these nations have a seat at the United Nations and wave their independent flags, it is only the face of imperialism that has changed. The conduct of business has largely remained the same. The big difference is that imperialism used to be spread through tanks. Nowadays, it comes through banks.
Banks. Illuminati bankers.
Special thanks to the sponsor of this video, War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. War Thunder is available on PC, PlayStation, having others accepted. In pre-colonial times, many African societies used cowrie seashells as a medium of exchange. These seashells were so widely circulated that by 1800, they had an official exchange rate with the French currency. But as the French Empire colonized deeper into Africa, Paris sought to monopolize these circuits of production and trade. Taxes were demanded in francs, and armed troops were sent to markets, forcing merchants to accept French currency. From the 1930s onwards, France came to dominate the money supply in French-speaking Africa. With new power came new extrajudicial perks. Paris gained access to African labor and raw materials at sub-market prices, while finished goods were sold back to Africa at above-market prices. French neo-colonialism was so intrusive, so ruthless, so unique that it earned a name of its own, France-Afrique. Following World War II, however, things changed. Paris joined the Bretton Woods system, and as a result, the French franc was devalued to set a fixed exchange rate with the US dollar. These fiscal reforms were taking place at a time when Africa was decolonizing itself. A weaker currency only added fuel to the fire.
So, to hold on to its African holdings, France conjured a new currency in 1945 called the CFA franc and forced its colonies to adopt it. Initially, the CFA franc was pegged to its French counterpart at a rate of 1.7 to 1, but in 1948 it was increased to 2 to 1. By overvaluing the CFA franc, Paris maintained its economic advantage while crushing Africa's export competitiveness. So in a way, France built its post-war recovery partially to a wealth transfer from Africa. Even so, the most effective forms of control are those that are invisible. Recognizing this in 1958, France hijacked authentic decolonization by installing local collaborators and granting.
So what we're looking at in this video is these 14 countries. Like I said, they all right there, Negro name in that same region where they came with slave ships, and nobody really paying no attention to it. So a little more display.
Them statehood. These collaborators became the custodians of France's neo-colonial empire by maintaining the Franc zone and French military bases. Only Guinea turned down the offer. Its leader, Sékou Touré, declared that his people preferred being poor in freedom than rich in slavery. Guinea thus rejected the CFA franc, seeking to develop its own currency. France felt it needed to make an example of Guinea, so it cut pensions to war veterans, dismantled Guinea's power grid, and then attempted to block its UN membership. France went as far as to induce hyperinflation by flooding the country with counterfeit bills.
So like I said, we in the last days, so we can see right here a lot of things not adding up, what they said, because we see right here with these we're dealing with our Genesis chapter 15, right? And they saying that the 400 years is tied to America, right? But when you look at that, and you see right now that it's a lot of Africans. I mean, not Africans, but Israelites. 10 tribes. Most of them didn't come here. But the prophecy in Genesis chapter 15 says that he told Jacob his seed, all of them, wherever this place is supposed to be at, these 400 years, they're going to be all there. And like I said before, we know that that's Africa. It was in Egypt. Prophecy pertaining to Egypt. They went there and they was afflicted and they came out. And then when they came out, that's when the Amorites came to the end. All that's part of that prophecy. So it's not here in America, because all the Israelites ain't here. They was all in Egypt. They was all in Egypt because they got there when this 70 souls went to Egypt with behind Joseph. Then they multiplied. So they was all there. But we know now all Israelites are here. So that's a bogus ass prophecy. Instead of concocted, it's tied to, like I said, they got their own end time agenda. And the Most High got his end time agenda he's prophesied. And you got to be aware that and be zeroed in on it, be able to rightly divide and discern where the lies is. So, like I said, all 12 tribes didn't come here. He only said the 10 tribes did their punishment when the Assyrians came and got them. Then later, the northern kingdom was taken in captivity for their punishment in Babylon. And we know that when Cyrus came and conquered the Babylonians, he had all 12 tribes under his kingdom. And he told them they can all go back. Let's look at that right quick. And so some of the other tribes from Assyria came back, but not all of them. A lot of them went into the interior Africa, to the West Coast. That's why when Antiochus came, they knew where their brethren was at. So when Antiochus came in that prophecy, and Daniel came to pass, where the king of fierce kindness was coming, the Antichrist, when Antiochus came, ran the rest of the Israelites out, they fled to where their brethren was at. on the west coast of Africa. And that's how Negro land was came into existence. So yeah, I forgot what I was going to read. But anyway, so yeah, that's how they ended up on the west coast of Africa. And they migrated there from, like I said, a lot of them went there when they came out of Egypt. When they came out of Babylon. And then the remainder, they really got populated when Antiochus ran them out. Abomination and make it desolate in Daniel chapter 9, 10, I believe, yeah. So the other video I have, and then I'll open up for some questions and we'll close out, is what's Russia doing? Same area, same region. This video is Russia's secret war in Africa, right? They're saying Africa, but let's look at it.
Locals but Russia, France, China, and the United States. Right in the thick of it is Wagner, a private military company with ties to the Kremlin. The mercenaries have set up shops in Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic. They're aiding rebel forces in Chad and Sudan, while in Libya, they're curbing oil exports to Europe. Still more, in Ivory Coast, Wagner has set up a base for informational warfare, propagating disinformation across the continent. The result, French flags are burned, while Russian flags are hoisted. Wagner is estimated to have around 5,000 troops across Africa, and its contractors control strategic sites and mineral deposits while denying those same resources to geopolitical rivals. Wagner is laying down strong roots, so much so that it even considered creating a confederation of African states stretching from Guinea to Eritrea. China, meanwhile, is taking note and looking to join the winning team so that it can continue to do business. But Wagner's CEO, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has even bigger plans. He's using the PMC as a springboard to score points with Vladimir Putin. But while Prigozhin climbs the political hierarchy, incompatible interests ingrain proxy conflicts, subversion, and brinkmanship. In this type of game, everyone is replaceable. Skillful maneuvering and compromise is thus the order of business, because politics is not the pursuit of perfection, but the art of the second best. It feels a world away, but Africa's future will decide the fate of the global economy. The massive continent holds a shocking 1/3 of the world's wealth in minerals, vital components in essential products made by the biggest technology companies in the world. These same companies are the only thing keeping the S&P 500 from plunging into the red. A reversal that erased $500 billion last time it occurred, wiping out the retirement and saving accounts of everyday people. However, now we can prepare just like...
So let's look at that. So all this wealth that, we've been looking at France, these European people, these European countries, Germany, all these, Belgium, all of them, they all possessing wealth, right? But it's all coming from that exact same region in those countries that's over on the West Coast. So you got to imagine the amount of wealth. That's the that's the land of milk and honey. The most I was talking about. So now it's just a matter of finding out exactly where Jerusalem was at. But we can see that it's somewhere close to that region or close to it. And that's what they hide. Well, they trying to hide it, but now they can't hide it because of us waking up. I mean, like I said, a baboon can figure this out. Everything that's going down is in around that region, Negro land, the West Coast, the Ivory Coast. It ain't hard to figure out. Yeah.
CEOs and billionaires who are currently moving huge sums into the markets shielded from this turmoil, like fine art, a market surpassing even its pre-pandemic levels. Now, I've used Masterworks to get my piece of the art market for over a year, and their results have only gotten better with time. 13 exits to date, each returning a profit, with recent net return French influence by other means. In 2013, France led a 15,000-strong multilateral intervention in Mali, contributing 5,000 troops itself. The goal was to stabilize Mali and counteract ethnic Tuareg rebels and jihadists. Less loudly, though, the operation sought to secure access to uranium deposits in neighboring Niger, crucial for France's energy needs. But as time wore on, France's presence irked the locals. Macron, who promised to pursue African relations on equal footing, could not shake off France's imperial baggage. And with thousands of deaths, 350,000 displaced, and 3 military coups, France's intervention was anything but a triumph. Sensing weakness, Assimi Goïta took power in the country in 2021. Initially pro-Western, Goïta switched sides once in office. The result was the expulsion of French forces from Mali. Enter Wagner. Since 2017, Russian private military contractors have drummed up anti-French sentiment to present Russia as an anti-imperial alternative. And even though these claims don't hold any water, they have gained some footing because, so far as Africa is concerned, Russia lacks the colonial stigma attached to France. Yet Wagner is a very much profit-based enterprise. Its CEO, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has an unconventional background in organized crime. But Wagner's connection to the criminal underworld also runs down the chain of command. Up to 4/5 of its personnel are drawn from Russian prisons, with many closely tied to the Russian far right. In Africa, Prigozhin's objectives go beyond just finances. The primary goal is to gain political capital at the Kremlin by disrupting Western interests in Africa. Wagner thus pursues Russian state interests, but on an autonomous level, which gives the Kremlin plausible deniability while making Wagner an indispensable component in Russian politics. On the ground, Wagner provides site security, information warfare, and private intelligence work. This way of doing business goes hand in hand with African governments looking for a no-strings-attached partnership. Some estimates place the number of Russian mercenaries at 5,000 troops, just shy of America's 6,000. Not surprisingly, policymakers in both.
So like I was saying before, what you sow, you're gonna reap. Just like spring, summer, winter, fall, the Lord of hosts, Most High, He set that in motion, and you can't get out of it. Just like sinning, according to what it is, it's gonna come back on you. So you should think twice before you dove into it, because it's gonna come back. So we see right here, when America went over there, but they did in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia and all that, with Saddam Hussein, they had those mercenaries, soldiers, Blackwater. And now Russia came right back and undermined America, doing the same thing. They got this Wagner group. They're the ones doing all the dirty work over on the West Coast of Africa, destabilizing and turning all influence toward America, toward Russia. So the same thing that make you laugh, gonna make you cry. Never fails. Okay. So with that being said, anybody got any comments?
Shalom, everyone. Over the weekend, I just watched a little bit of a video on Africa and France, right? So
Right.
This is information that I did not know, that they pay them over 500 billion each year in colonial tax. Like,
Well, yeah.
it's just, it's crazy. And with having the still such a large French military presence there in Africa after everything that they did in Guinea, pretty much destroying everything before they left there, right? I mean,
Right.
they just pretty much wiped them out. So then I think it was saying like the government elites in Africa did not want that happening, where they was at, right? So they just did
Right.
not follow suit. But like you say, you're gonna reap what you sow. But I did not know that they was still paying taxes to France.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, that's the whole thing behind them. They want to, they backdoor slavery.
Mhm.
They got
Exactly.
they're not allowing it. That's why the people are poor, because they got them doing all the work, all the minerals and all the riches is theirs, but they getting it and got them doing it and they ain't getting nothing for it. The same way they did with over here on the plantation.
Right.
Yeah,
And they were saying that everything that they could not take, they destroyed, you
right,
know, from schools to the cattle to crops, everything.
right. Yeah, pour cement in the plumbing and up in the drains, and they just met, and nobody there, none of the countries that would go along with what they were doing, they destroyed them.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
Wow.
looking for right now. The second Ezra. Like I said, people have, so they don't have the proper information when they read some of these scriptures. They, they can't connect the dots with it. But this right here, he's talking. Let me get it. He says, uh, okay, this is second Ezra when uh, Lord of Hosts came and explained the four beasts to Ezra. Put more into it. More information was given than it was when he gave it to Daniel. So it says, okay, uh, okay, let me get to right, see where I want to start at. It says, yeah, I'm starting at, I started right here. It says, I slept that night. I'm in the Apocrypha, the chapter 10, verse 1. Says, Ezra, chapter 10. It says, so I slept that night, the following one, and he had commanded me, and it came to pass on the second night that I had a dream, and behold, there came up out of the sea an eagle. So it's a four beast, like with 12 feather covered wings and 3 heads. And I looked, and behold, he spread his wings over the whole earth, and all the winds of heaven blew upon him, and the clouds gathered about him. And I looked, and out of his wings grew additional wings, and they became small dwarf wings, but his heads were resting, and the middle head was greater than the other heads, but it was resting like them. And I looked, and behold, the eagle flew with his wings to reign over the earth and over those who live on it. And I said that everything under heaven was subject to him, and no one opposed him, nor any creature that was on the earth. And I looked, and behold, the eagle rose upon his talons and uttered his voice to his wings, saying, don't all watch at once. Sleep each in his own place, and watch by turn, but let the heads be reserved for the last. So this is what I was telling you about in the book of Daniel. You got all these so-called uh, end time prophecies, end time prophets that's trying to break it down, and they're saying that those 10 toes at the end is going to be 10 kings that's going to rise out of the earth, right? And they're going to come together as one with the Antichrist. But that's not what it's saying right here. It says, and he looked, and behold, the eagle rose upon his talons. Hold up. And like I said, once it's explained to you, you can see it. So he says, and I looked, and behold, the eagle rose upon his talons, uttered his voice. So he uttered his voice to the wings. saying. So these wings is these 10 toes, right? And we're going to see who they are. Do not all watch at once. Sleep each in his own place and watch by turn. See that? So they move in one. That's the difference in the reason the fourth beast is diverse. It's not stabilized in one location like the Babylonians and the Medes and Persians and the Greeks. They rose and fell in one place, but this fourth beast relocating. It's Esau, and he's relocating. He moved from one place to the next. He didn't figure out how to pack his bags, take all the blueprint and move somewhere else. So we see that it started in Rome, the headquarters, but we see it at one time. Greece, England, Great Britain was ruling the world. Then they moved from Great Britain, came to America. The French, it was in France at one time. Then it came to Great Britain. Then it came here to America, where it said now we see it jumping again with China. They took all the resources from China, and they took them. From America, took them to China, back in the late 80s. That's why China rolled up. So we see that right here. It's speaking to the wings, which is these 10 toes. It says, "Do not all watch at once. Sleep each in his own place, and watch by turn. But let the heads be reserved for the end." So I looked, and behold, the voice did not come from his head, but from the midst of the body. And I counted his additional wings, and behold, there were 8 of them. And I looked, and behold, on the right side, one of the wings arose, and it rained over the earth. See that? Just like Great Britain, at one time, Great Britain reigned over the earth, and the pound was its number one currency. One time, the French ruled over the whole world, and then coming to America doing it right now. We see China coming up in place, China and Russia. But it says, and I looked, and behold, on the right side, one wing rose, and it rained over the whole earth. And it came to pass after it had rained. After it had rained, that it came to an end. See that? And disappeared, so that even the place where it had been could not be seen. And then the second arose and reigned, and it ruled a long time. And it came to pass after it had reigned, and it also came to an end, so it disappeared like the first. And behold, a voice was heard saying to it, here we go right here. This is the point I want to make. Listen, you who have ruled the earth so long, I make this proclamation to you before you begin to disappear. No one after you will rule as long as you have ruled, or even half as long. Then the third wing raised itself up and ruled like the former ones, and it disappeared. And so it fell to all the wings, one by one, to become emperor, and then to disappear. And I looked, and behold, in due time, the additional wings on the right side raised themselves up in order to be emperor. And there were some of them who succeeded but immediately disappeared. And some of them raised themselves up but did not remain emperor. And afterwards, I looked, and behold, the 12 wings, there were 2 little wings. And the 2 little wings disappeared, and nothing was left for the body except the head. The 3 heads that were resting, and 6 little wings. And I looked, and behold, from the 6 little wings, 2 separated, stayed under the heads that were on the right side, but 4 stayed in their place. And I looked, and behold, these 4 additional wings planned to rise, then raise themselves up and be emperor. And I looked, and behold, one raised itself up and immediately disappeared. And the second, and it disappeared more quickly than the first. And I looked, and behold, 2 that were left also planned to reign. But while they were planning, behold, one of the resting heads that was in the middle awoke, and it was greater than the other 2 heads. And I saw how the 2 heads were united with it, and behold, the head turned to the ones that were on its left, and it ate up the additional wings which planned to reign. Moreover, this head made itself master of the whole earth and ruled very oppressively over its inhabitants, and it had more power over the world than all the wings that had gone before it. And afterwards I looked, and behold, the middle head suddenly disappeared, which just as the wings had done, but the two heads remained, and they also reigned over the whole earth, over its inhabitants. And I looked, and behold, the heads on the right side ate up the one on the left. Then I heard a voice saying to me, look before you and think about what you see. And I looked, and behold, what seemed to be a lion, it's Israel, rose up out of the forest roaring. And I heard how it uttered a man's voice to the eagle and spake, saying, here you go right here. This is what I was trying to get you. Listen, and I will speak to you. The Most High says to you, are you not all that is left of the four animals that I made to reign in my world, so that through them the end of my time may come? And you are the fourth to come, and you have conquered all the animals that are past, and you have held, here you go right here, you have held the whole world in subjection and great terror, and the whole earth with harsh oppression, and you have lied so long, you have lived so long in the world with deceit, and you have not judged the earth with truth. So that hit the nail on the head, because that's exactly what they did. They oppressed with terror and oppression, like we was just saying. They would when they brought us over here, they would do horrendous things in front of our people to terrify them, make them do what they want them to do. It's like for the longest in Africa, they were killing, causing all these coups and killing these dictators, or killing the presidents, and everybody was held in subjection. They was afraid. Nobody wouldn't do that. And that's exactly what the lion just told the four beasts. That's what they're doing. They live by terror. But that's over with. We see that coming to an end. Nothing lasts forever. Any comments?
I say shalom and hallelujah, and that's good. I'm glad it's not going to live forever. I see it, and now they're talking about another COVID that's coming through.
Right.
They trying to destroy. It's not working fast enough for them, and they're still creating and still trying to pressure everyone with the terror, like you say. Again, this is another example of it.
Right. And you can see it. It's got to run its course, but that's where it's at. It's running its course. So all we got to do, all we have to do is sit back and keep doing what we're doing, stay in the Most High Word, studying His Word, and staying prayed up and searching the Scriptures. Because you're gonna do it's like I said, nobody can. He knows just how to do you. These angels and the Lord of Hosts, they know just how to do you. They've been around for forever and a day. They know how to set you up. We see how smooth the Pharaoh was set up. So these people are no different. They're being set up. They think they're setting us up, but they're setting their own self up.
Okay. Because the Lord of Hosts said He's using them, and it's going to show His end that He's coming, just like you read.
Right. Exactly. Right. You can see it. You can see it manifesting itself. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And we always, now we know the games that they play, right? Yeah. So, when we're thinking, everything is good, like I said, they never leave the lab. They're always in the lab, creating, doing something. So they just sit on it until a right time, when they feel as though, we are really being awakened to the fact of what's going on. They bring out something else to try to put that fear in us, right? So we just have to stay alert and awaken to the games that they continue to play, which is the same games that we never paid any attention to before, but now we are.
Right. We got the knowledge of it.
Yes, we do.
He's involved
Yes,
for the
sir.
longest. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All praises. Yes.
Right. Okay. Anybody else got anything before we go?
Shalom. I just want to add that again, like everyone is saying, that we are acknowledging what's going on, and it's like the how Hollywood will show you prior to what's going to happen. They show you in their movies and what have you. So like the Wizard of Oz, when the curtain is pulled back, they're still trying to tell you that this is not what you see. You know, it's being revealed, but they still want you to believe it's not. It's not what you see. Y'all not getting. This is not happening. It's go back to what they're saying. Don't look at what's going on. Don't start to believe something else. Continue to believe what they have programmed you to believe. That's my take on what's going on right now.
Exactly right. Is it right? And like I was saying, you can't leave it up to your own imagination, because look at what something as simple as what happened with Russia coming into Africa. Now that's all these Africans needed was somebody to come in and back them up. Now that they got somebody to back them up, they kicking all these European countries out on their head, and it ain't can't reverse it. You know, and when somebody wants you, it's like a bully. You know, and you know, in school, they bullied you, and you never did take the initiative. All you had to do was take initiative and stand up to them, and never did. And then finally somebody do. Shit, he got to go, because ain't nobody afraid of him no more. Everybody, you know, you got exposed. So that's where we at now. These European countries and this terror campaign they've been putting on the earth, it's been played out. You know, you can see it it's playing out over here too. From what we just saw, what we saw happen in Alabama. You know, yeah. So it's happening, and it's happening so fast. Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, nobody else have anything, we're gonna close out, and I'll see everybody tomorrow for that for reading through the Tanakh. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.